I discovered the group chat where my family hides my fiance's affair with my best friend, so I one-upped them by hiding my big revenge. So a week ago, Alex was taking a shower and had left his phone on our bed. I was packing my suitcase for a family trip that is happening after my rehearsal dinner tomorrow. I heard his phone kept going off. He yelled from our shower if I could mute his phone. I went to get his phone and saw that it was Peach calling him. I was curious at first, but seeing as she's part of my bridal party, I didn't find it too suspicious. I muted the phone and soon messaged Peach from my own phone. Here is the paraphrase of our conversation. Me? Hey Peach, my fiancé is in the shower right now. What did you need, Peach? Oh, nothing. Just wanted to confirm with him the flowers for your bouquet and aisle. Me? That's weird.
I
Didn't change my mind on any flowers or anything. The florist was contacted last month and everything was already paid for by my father. Peach, are you sure? I remember him telling me, you changed. After that, it was the usual wedding talk. In hindsight, I should have found it very weird that she would call him about 6 times to confirm a flower choice when she simply could have either texted me or Alex. When Alex got out of the shower, I told him Peach tried calling him about my flower choices. I asked him what made him think I changed my mind on the flowers for the wedding. He paused for a bit. I now know he was basically stalling and doing the, oh, I'm thinking face when I had asked. He then said that he thought I had mentioned it in passing during a dinner. I told him that I didn't recall that. He then just shrugged and grabbed his phone and went back to the bathroom. I hate to be one of those people, but for once my gut actually sunk. I got this really paranoid feeling and I couldn't shake it. I tried to convince myself that it was just my old cheating trauma trying to creep back. Yet I just couldn't let this go. Me and Alex had dinner, and I pushed through all the way until it was time to go to bed. I pretended to fall asleep first. Me and Alex usually cuddled to fall asleep. When I knew he was in a deep enough sleep, I went to check his phone again. I checked his Instagram, Snapchat, and messages, and I couldn't find anything. I then went to his Facebook Messenger. He has Messenger to communicate with his family overseas. I only saw his main family, and most of the messages were about getting plane tickets to come to the wedding. We were supposed to get married in December with a Winter Wonderland-themed wedding. However, with my previous relationships, I checked his archives on Messenger. That's when the horrific truth came to light. There was a group chat with Peach, Alex, Richard, my brother, Mom, and Maria, my sister. The group chat was established a year ago, where basically Alex and Peach confessed to having an affair to my family. My mom did shame them at first, yet she later asked Alex if he truly loved Peach, because you can't help who you love. He said he was absolutely sure, and that he also loved me too. Then Maria and Richard offered that he, being Alex, bring up to me an open relationship. They both are in open relationships and married, and apparently it's working for them in whatever Layla land they live in. At this point, me and him were already engaged. Alex mentioned to them that it seemed too far deep to try to bring it up. My mom said that they would cover for Alex and Peach until he felt strong enough to bring up an open relationship to me. As I was reading, all I could think was how in the actual F could my family betray me like that? I honestly wanted to vomit. However, I was just taking screenshot after screenshot. The more I read down, I found out that Peach took my spot on our previous family trip. I got a really bad stomach bug a while ago that caused me not to go. I can't even begin to imagine what they did on the trip, and the fact my mother was okay with all of this, I think, is what hurts the most. The fact she's known for a whole year that my fiancé was cheating on me. That's taking the longest to sit in, I feel. There is more in the group chat, but these were the major points. I've known for a whole week. It's been eating at me inside, and I want to explode and cuss them all out. I want to ruin their lives the way they ruined me. It all hurts so effing much, and I just really want advice on how to confront them. How do I even begin? What do I even say? The anger I feel is so intense that I feel like if I just let it all out, I would just look insane. I'm planning on confronting them tomorrow at our rehearsal dinner update. I sent the screenshots to Alex's parents and explained the whole deal to them. I was honestly expecting them to ignore it or not believe me. However, they called rather quickly. They asked for more screenshots, and I just basically sent them a good chunk of the screenshots. His mother made me feel so awful for sending them. She was sobbing and apologizing for her son. She soon became inconsolable. His father took the phone and asked, was it anything his son could do to make it up to me? I told him that unless his son could shrivel up and disappear, then there wasn't anything he could say. His father said that he understood. I asked him if they could keep this to themselves until I brought it up to Alex. They said they could, and we ended the call. For a while, I thought vomiting from stress was rare, but it finally happened. Alex heard me, I guess, because he woke up and tried to rub my back. I held my hand up and cleaned myself up. This is around 7 a.m. in the morning. Alex had concern in his voice and was asking if I was okay. For once, I actually saw nothing but red. Yet I kept the composure. I have no idea why. But I guess that will be my superpower I'll hold on to. I ignored him and just went back to sleep. I woke back up at 8 a.m. to start getting ready for the rehearsal dinner. Alex told me he had to get something done before heading to the restaurant. I told him that was fine and that I'd see him. Before he left, he said he loved me, and this was one of the days he was excited for. I said me too, trying not to have much rage behind it. Once he left, I gathered all the screenshots. For some people that don't know, you can schedule text messages to be sent out at a certain time. I decided to do this to send it to everyone. Peach's family are friend groups, his family, as well as mine. I sent it to go out at 1:25 p.m. This would be the halfway point of the dinner, and people would be dropping off gifts early for us, and etc. I gathered the black hole of stress forming in me and headed to the restaurant when it was time. My mother and her husband were already there. My mother hugged me, and all I could do was stand there. To feel her hands on me almost felt like she was personally violating my spirit. I did a quick tap hug so she wouldn't get suspicious, and we headed inside. Guests started flowing in, and everyone was surprisingly on time. Once everyone was gathered, Alex went on this whole spiel of how he was happy everyone could come, and that he was excited for his family for the next dinner. He mentioned how I was the love of his life, and how he was so happy our families would mingle and we could be one. I wanted to ask him, how dare he say that crap, but nothing but fake smiles and nods from me. Peach was basically looking like a clueless dog and smiling right along and clapping for us. To see this happen in real life is truly mind-boggling. The lengths people will go to have their cake and eat it too. I could barely eat as the stress was getting to me so badly. At the time I said for the messages, people's phones started buzzing and Alex's and Peach's phone were blowing up. I would like to admit that for once a genuine smile crept on my face. It was like watching an entire kingdom crumble and fall. The horrified faces of Peach and Alex when they looked at me was golden. It's the one highlight I will hold on to from this emotional day. My aunt went ballistic. She started calling my mom a cruel, heartless beach over and over. My mother hurriedly checked her phone and saw Ibeli sent her the screenshot. She started screaming and becoming irate, saying I was really trying to ruin her life again. My grandparents' reaction hurt the most because they started screaming at my mother. My grandmother was trying with a few of our other guests to hold my aunt back as she started screaming every explicate if she could. My grandfather was screaming at my mother that he didn't raise a hoe. At this point, everyone is screaming and crying hysterically. My other bridesmaids were cussing Peach out and calling her a hoe. I hate to admit it again. I took joy in that. My grandfather went on to scream at Alex with some things I can't say here because he was very explicit. I just started laughing and sobbing. I had so much emotions that I genuinely think my body didn't know what to do, so it did everything. The tears just kept coming. My cousin escorted me outside as fast as she could with Alex chasing us down. He kept screaming my name and begging to talk. I ignored him, and my cousin was pushing him away from her car so she could get in and drive off. She took me to my aunt's house and told me to stay there and not answer the door for anyone. I kind of felt like a kid being left at home alone. I didn't, and just sat on the floor. That's when I just started bawling. All the emotions I've kept pent up for a whole week just finally came up. After about another hour, my aunt and cousin came back home. They hugged me for like a good 5 minutes. When we finally broke off, I noticed my aunt had a few scratches on her. I'm assuming they couldn't hold my aunt back from my mom for much longer. My aunt caught me up on everything. Apparently, after my cousin drove off with me, Alex came back in and started screaming at Peach for ruining everything. They got into a screaming match, and some of our friends were trying to split them apart. My grandparents' aunt and Tony, my mom's husband, were drilling into my mother for answers. Tony was the most livid. Apparently, during the family trip I couldn't go to, my mom told Tony that I had offered my ticket to Peach so she could enjoy a nice break for herself. Tony at this point is screaming and reading some of her messages out loud. She was begging him to stop and that she could explain. My aunt started adding on that she better start explaining because all she sees is a worthless mother and vile person. Apparently this set my mother off, and she started screaming about how she hated me, about how I ruined her life and made it difficult, how she felt like she could never be happy because I was always a constant reminder of her biggest mistake ever, and she regretted not aborting me when she had the chance. That set my aunt off, and she basically pounced on her. Update: my aunt and cousin are at my place getting some of my things and my cat. Alex is there begging them to not take my things and to have me just talk to him. I don't know what he thinks a conversation will do. However, things that escalated heavily once I woke up and took a long hot shower. I turned my phone back on. I couldn't even unlock it or clear notification before I got a call from one of my bridesmaids. I answered, and she immediately started screaming at me about how could I ignore Peach and Alex in their time of need. At first I was confused, seeing as I don't give a damn about them anymore. I asked her to not yell at me, but she continued. Anyway, she screamed that Peach self-harmed. When she sent me the images, they were very top, surface level, enough for the scar to appear in a little plot. I wanted to scoff on the phone because, at this point, I know she was doing it to rally people on her side, since I won't respond to her text, yet she also told me Alex tried to OD. His friends found him at my apartment all groggy. They took him to the hospital where he was cleared since they didn't have to pump. They are keeping him on watch for the next 72 hours, which is good just because I hate his gut. Doesn't mean he needs to die. After this, my friend group has been split very heavily since I didn't respond to either of Worth. Before they did this, I still have no intention of talking to either of them. I don't really care what they do for attention, just as long as they leave me the hell alone. During the initial confrontation with my egg donor Tony father, found out my egg donor lied to him and said Peach could take my ticket to go with them for the trip. They got home and started arguing more because Tony brought up the suspicions he had about my mother cheating. She started screaming at him and confessing everything. She told him my half-siblings aren't his and a lot of other very hurtful things. He had to call the police on her to escort her off his property. Tony followed up with me this morning. Yes, he is divorcing her. His lawyers are drafting up his papers within the next week or so, and told me that my mother confessed that I was the product of a long-term affair she had with his best friend. Yet after finding out Tony is getting papers, she has tried to backpedal. She has been calling my aunt begging for her to convince Tony not to do this or else she will be homeless. She has been trying to call Tony and his family, but they all have been ignoring her. Yet this wasn't enough. For my egg donor, she knows my aunt's schedule and tried to come over to assault me. My cousin was with me still, so she couldn't get in, but hearing her scream at me, some of my very low insecurities hurt and I started to have a panic attack. My cousin took me upstairs when we heard a loud crash. My mother broke through the window and ran upstairs and attacked me. For once in my life, I hit my egg donor back. All the anger I had towards her I finally let out. My cousin was struggling to separate us that she had to run to get our neighbor. I only have a few scratches and bite marks, but outside of that I am okay. I'm also placing charges against my egg donor. Hopefully I can get a restraining order, honestly. My mom ran off before the police came, but I gave them Tony's address, just in case she tries going back there. I see that those evil people aren't going to stop until they get a response out of me. However, on the weird side, I got a call from my half-sister. She tried apologizing and I cut her off because I don't want to hear it anymore. She then scoffed and had the nerve to ask if I could watch my nieces, while her her husband, and her boyfriend all go on a trip. I love my nieces and nephews, but I told her that she could go F herself. If she wanted me to watch her nieces, then she would have to ask through my aunt. She started screaming how I was being unfair to her and punishing her kids. I told her I was punishing her, she said. Never mind, and that I couldn't see my nieces. I knew this was something that could happen, but it hurt my heart. I'm pretty sure she's telling them I hate them. I'm keeping the screenshots, and my aunt and cousin said they would back me up if they reach out in the future. This is everything so far, but I'm expecting more to happen, honestly. One thing I know about Egg Donor is that she hates losing. I know she sees this as a loss and she won't stop until she comes out on top. My half-brother has me blocked on everything, and I'm pretty sure he's siding with my half-sister. My aunt and cousin are currently packing up Alex's things and dropping them off at a buddy of his. His name is Kyle. He is on my side, and he's been helping me through all of this as well. He dropped me off my favorite fruit this morning to my aunt. He also assured me that I can talk to him anytime. I asked him if he would be in further communication with Alex, and he said no. He's just holding on to his things until his parents can pick them up. I really appreciate